Sports professor Rick Horrow, Beyond the Scoreboard, the serious show that delves into the trillion-dollar business of sports, gets behind it like nobody else can, with some interesting interviews and perspectives. Today, little tease, Renee Fassel has been the International Ice Hockey Federation leader for the past 25 years, 1994, even before. Dentist, grew up in Europe, hockey aficionado, hockey referee. Now he runs everything effectively but the NHL. We'll get into that in a few minutes. We'll talk Olympics, and there have been other things going on. NBA All-Star Game after an amazing Super Bowl, and on and on. If you want to see our 15 to watch, plus our 15 tech, plus our 5 tech, plus our 5 power of sports issues, tune in to NBCWashington.com, CSN Mid-Atlantic. We've been with the family for years and will continue to be. And subscribe to us on Audio Boom, Google Play, Apple Podcast, iTunes feed. Look for us on Stitcher and the like. Let's talk about the Olympics before we talk about anything else. It has captured the American stage. Officially underway, $13 billion, 4 times less than what the Russian government paid to host the most expensive Olympics ever 4 years ago. By the way, Pyeongchang, I don't know if anybody knew this, but it's the smallest city to host the Olympics since Lillehammer, Norway did it back in 1994. Extensive hotel arrangements are made not just to get to Seoul, but to get to the site. The town itself only has 43,000 people. That's in the whole county. 80,000 foreign tourists, 42,000 hotel rooms. Plus, there's a high-speed rail constructed to connect Seoul to the host region in 69 minutes. And so far, the organizing committee's received nothing but glowing praise from the world's journalists assembled there, a gold medal-worthy feat in itself, obviously. Ticket sales, 655,000 as of a week before the Olympics, out of about 1.0 million, crept up to about 78% by the opening ceremonies. Cold weather hasn't helped either. The security scanners, by the way, froze up during the opening ceremony dress rehearsal, and it probably didn't please Visa. The credit card matches were glitched. A surprise hitch with American fans at home so far, the new sport of mixed doubles curling getting increased airtime from NBC thanks to a high level of viewer interest. Who'd have thought it? U.S. delegation is the most diverse the USOC ever sent to the Olympics. 11 Asian American athletes, 10 African American athletes among its 243 members, and obviously there continues to be far less outcry about diversity in winter sports than in most others. And however, for one key reason, most winter sports are far more geographically dependent than their warmer counterparts. If you don't live near the mountains, it's pretty hard to become a world-class skier or boarder, as we know. Other issues with the Olympics, obviously, Team USA Sports Engine joined forces to help future Winter Olympians pursue their passion. Sports Engine's launch to a new youth sports academy, finding a way to convert a child's newfound interest to action easier than ever. The NBC-owned youth sports property teamed up with the U.S. Olympic Committee to increase participation in sports that kids and adults are discovering during the Olympic season. Olympic movement inspires millions of people. There's no better time for the youth of America to start their Olympic journey than during the Games, said Gary Zenkel, NBC Olympic president. The bottom line is this is an app that gets people to understand what the Olympics are early on and keeps them in the fold. The Olympics also open with unprecedented value. The North and South Koreans, as we now know, marching together. Interview hour before the ceremony, the South Korean president said that at a starting point, Korea is the only divided country in the world. It'll be an opportunity for the peace we're thinking of to be shown to the world in a more deep way. And Kim Jong-un's sister comes to the games. This is, as we keep saying, a bigger issue even than ping-pong Chinese diplomacy in the early 70s, and clearly really important for everybody. After the Olympics are over, we've got to count on other factors like what's going to happen with the dollars and the legacy. Well, according to the Sports Business Journal, ski and board shops near the venues at the Olympics have put up signs saying, "The Olympics kill us, keep our right to live." Shops are complaining about the lack of business they can do with the ski park area being closed since January 20, because they say the games were closed, but no compensation has been given to those folks by the regional government or Olympic organizers. In total, the ski park has 17 slopes and 6 major hotels, and inevitably, even though most local businesses benefit, some are overshadowed by the games. In this case, the local rental outfits suffer. And we can't leave the Olympics without talking about the USOC and what may be happening with U.S. gymnastics. USOC's chairman, Larry Probst, defends Scott Blackman against calls for his resignation. The U.S. House Oversight and Government Reform Committee announced it launched an investigation into the USOC, USA Gymnastics, and Michigan State University, and a lot of other entities. Probst said he didn't have a timetable on how long it would take for Ropes and Gray, the law firm they've asked to complete their investigation, a matter of seriousness and global attention. No Scott Blackman. He is a high-character guy. Hopefully, the Olympic process continues to move on for the good of the order and for the good of everybody. And we'll talk about other issues with the Olympics, most notably how hockey without the NHL will impact the games. Are the hockey games competitive? Certainly on the women's side they will be. And there are 2 points of view. Gary Bettman clearly talking about the administrative costs, the lack of insurance, the transportation, the branding problem of not having any rights, the cutting down and shutting off the season. And what happens now may also happen in China, since it's 4 years from now, same time zone, same distance. Another perspective is Renee Fassel. He's been the head of hockey internationally since 1994. Grew up as a dentist of significant repute, a referee of significant repute, knows what he's talking about. He has some significant opinions relating the NHL to the NHL, and certainly worth listening to, at least as another point of view. Dr. Renee Fassel. Sports Professor Rick Horrow, Beyond the Scoreboard, inside the boardroom. We're here at the Prime Sports Conference in Toronto talking about international affairs of all sports. Hockey Hall of Fame this evening, the induction, and everybody is always using this as a trade show to do business around the International Hockey Hall of Fame. Honored to have the president of the International Federation, the International Ice Hockey Federation, Dr. Renee Fassel. Doctor, dentist, entrepreneur. There are others who have started in the medical profession and rose to a level of running international governing bodies of, let's say, Olympic sports. Do you think that the appropriate process to run the International Ice Hockey Federation is to start being a dentist?
It's a good question, but I think maybe I started to be a hockey player, and then I was 10 years referee actually in Switzerland, being in the top league for 6 years. So I would say that referee, ice hockey referee on the ice, being on the ice, was a very, very good school to do what I'm doing now.
My sense as well is if you're a player, your goal is to antagonize and to score goals. If you're a referee, your goal is to generate some kind of consensus and develop some resolution. So that's how you become a stupendous international executive. How's that? Is that better?
Yeah, and as a dentist, I'm building bridges, and
both literally and figuratively.
Yes,
right.
And I'm being a Swiss. I mean, as Swiss people, we're always actually trying to look for compromises, and the unbelievable and fantastic thing to work in sport is to work with so many different cultures. You would agree that the Russian is so different than a Swede, and a Swede to a Finn, and a Finn to the American, and an American, even American to the Canadian. There's so much difference. So being there in between, and like a chef d'orchestre, you can find the good balance in between the different parties and find a consensus to do the good thing for sport.
Now, some people who use that analogy end up closing their restaurants because the food is so bad. But you've been there for a long time, and you've been able to understand the dynamics of an evolving sport. How much of your job is game, ice-related? How much of it is politics? How much of it is psychiatry?
I would say politics is my main job. Being a member of the IOC, being the president for 23 years now, I think politics is really one of my main part I'm doing. As I said, try to bring people together and find this good balance. And for sure, I mean, my heart, I'm coming from ice hockey. I love the game, so I really work, I would say, very, very intense in maybe not for a long time, but I like to feel the game. I like to listen. Do we have to change this rule? What do we have to do in the different competition tournaments? So, but politics is my main job.
Well, the news flash for people who only want to skim the surface is that you have an Olympics coming up in Korea, and the NHL will not be there, and therefore, does the sport survive? What are the problems? Maybe we can provide some different perspective and talk about what life will be like preparing for these and future Olympics without the NHL participating.
First of all, I was very much disappointed. I'm still very much disappointed, but we have to look forward. So, and we have more to speak about the people that will be there, the athletes that will be there. So we have still great athletes that will be there, great hockey players, and it's maybe also time to have new heroes. I'm 100% sure that in Pyeongchang, new heroes will be born, scoring, I mean, making the difference, and that gives actually the space for this new, say, generation, maybe for different players, and we will have a great tournament. Hockey is a great game. Any level you go and watch a hockey game, even at the lowest level, there is always something happening on the ice. There is always emotion. There is always is going on. So I'm not so much concerned about that. But still, for sure, I miss the big names.
Well, and of course it grabs the headlines now, and it'll grab the headlines in Pyeongchang. But after that, you have 4 more years to then pick up whatever positives were generated in Korea and move forward. Great development program. What does the organization that you chair do to promote and develop the sport generally?
So I think our main job is to organize different world championships in different places in the world. We organize around 30 to 35 different world championships, women and men, women under 18 and senior. On the men, we have under 18, 20, and the seniors, and on the different levels. So this is I would say this is our main task. On the other point is having the relationship with the other federations, Winter Sports Federation and Summer, being an IOC member, having this contact with the IOC and the Olympic movement, and for sure with the NHL. This is also one of our main tasks. Even now the NHL tries to have a personal contact with the leagues in Europe and the clubs. We saw that last weekend, but it's not a big concern, so that they will need us anyway. So it's how you say, and then have actually a look on the rules, changing the rules, adjusting, adapting the rules, and on the good governance actually to teach and to tell actually the member national federation about good government, statutes, bylaws, financing. So this is, I would say, in generally, and help the development. This is generally our task.
You're a senior statesman in the industry. People respect what you've done. You are a pinnacle of stability in the industry. How have things changed, not on the ice, but off the ice, with more global television contracts and social media, etc.? What are the biggest change agents from, let's say, when you started this job?
The money.
Yeah.
The money.
Yeah.
I mean, I was elected Swiss president in '85, and then elected in the IIHF as a council member in '86. So when you see the budget we had at that time, maybe it was between 4 or 5 million. Now in the Olympic year, we are more near to 80 million Swiss francs budget than it was in the 80s. You know, and beginning 90s, when I see especially actually soccer, football, FIFA. Yeah. With the TV rights and also IOC, we, in a different way also us. I mean, we have, I would say, 4 or 5, 6 times more money now than we had in the 90s. So money was a huge change in actually generating sport income.
Is the money going to the right places?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think we are lucky here. We have a budget, as I said, in the normal year of 35 million Swiss francs. We spend actually over 92% of the money going back to the sport, and we have around, I don't know, 8 to 10% of the money going for administration costs. So we are quite good on that, and we have also good governance, practice in our federation. Since many years, being in Switzerland, controlled by the Swiss tax authorities. Actually, in our case, I must say we were away from scandals. We were also a bit lucky. We didn't have so much money.
Refreshing.
Yeah.
Refreshing.
If the more money you have, I would say the more rats are coming. So trying to grab money. So we are not rich, but we are not poor. So we have a good balance. So I feel really fine about the money we have, and this is good.
Harder to be transparent in the future with more money and therefore more rats?
Yeah, we are very transparent in our federation. We should for sure just adjust some good governance rules and adapt as the time today it is. People asking for more transparency, but I must say I was used to, especially also as my education I had to be transparent, and we are. I would say I'm very happy the way we organize and we run our federation. The people running our federation.
Hockey is a global sport, and no one would argue that soccer isn't football, isn't probably number one. Hard to know where to measure it by, but hockey becoming more international every day. Are you pleased? Not pleased with the lack of Olympic participation, but are you pleased with Gary Bettman going to China and beginning regular seasons in Eastern Europe and all of those things that he's trying to do to move the game, his NHL game, to be more international?
The positive thing is for sure is that he is working for hockey, developing, pushing, promoting ice hockey. So this is the very good point. Where I'm not so happy is that we should coordinate that. I'm a little bit disappointed on that we do not have this cooperation together. That we have some advantages in China that Gary and the NHL does not have. Being a member of the Olympic movement, the IHF, the International Ice Hockey Federation, and having me being in the coordination commission of Beijing 22, having the relationship with the government and the NOC, we could coordinate in a way where we had a synergy to have a much better impact, especially in China, and not going to Korea. For me, this is if on one side you want to promote the game, and you speak about China, about Beijing, maybe look at the map where Korea is. It's not so far away from China, Beijing. So I would say missing Pyeongchang is not really developing the game in Asia.
Now, Gary Bettman would say, he said this morning, that a lot of the issue was the IOC, not you, not paying certain expenses, not acknowledging what he needs to close down the season for 3 weeks during the year. Is there some sensitivity to all of that?
It's always the same problem. Closing the league for 2 weeks. 2.5 weeks. They play the same number of games. So he has 82 regular season games. So he has the income. And okay, we are in February. Maybe for some owners, they have more spectators in February than they have in a tight schedule as they have. But in some places you will not really increase the number of spectators if you play in February and in March or in a tight schedule. Ottawa being in the semifinal of the conference last year and not filling the arena, it's not a problem being in the Olympics or not. So, I understand Gary that for some business reason he couldn't decide. And maybe for some money reason. Some important steps went wrong. First of all, the IOC telling us they will not pay the insurance and the transportation, so we could find the money. The second point is Gary asking the players to extend the CBA for an extra 2 years. So not asking really, but really asking. He said I didn't really put that in the basket as a negotiation, and then it went in the wrong direction. But at least it was a money question for him, for the players, and for the league. I'm here for sport, so too bad. So I'm not so happy they're not coming, but I have to live with that.
Well, you have to live with that. And then I guess the final question, moving on from that, where is the sport of hockey broadly defined 5 years from now?
I think we will have 5 years from now, we will have actually the Olympic Games in Beijing. I believe in our sport, and I would just ask maybe the NHL and the KHL, we have to sit together and develop a strategy how we can work, not to actually be in competition. So we have to work together. Actually, in North America, they are the best league in the world. This is their place. But if they go internationally, I always say the American with the big shoes and the big cigars when they are coming. So they should be a little bit more careful. So we have maybe a better approach to different people, to different markets than they have, thinking that they are just the best in the world. They are the best league here in the world and in North America. But to work with the Chinese, to work with the Russian, with the Scandinavian, it's maybe a little different type of approach that they should have.
A politician, a hockey enthusiast, a great entrepreneur, and a dentist. What more can you get? Dr. René Fasel, Rick Horrow, speak with you soon. Well, René Fasel has given us an interesting perspective on the games. The games will continue to go on, and we will continue to cover them on Beyond the Scoreboard. Let's go to soccer. Carlos Cordeiro elected to replace Sunil Gulati as the president of the U.S. Soccer Federation. He's won the votes. Kathy Carter followed closely behind, 35%. Cordeiro, 36%. In the final round, the MLS switched its votes to Cordeiro, setting the stage for his victory. He'll be tasked with helping to keep the beautiful game clean in the U.S. and elsewhere. Also bidding, as we know, 2026 FIFA, Mexico, Canada, U.S. $3 to $4 billion, $480 million, contrasted after the public costs, but the bottom line is Boston Consulting Group paints a pretty good picture. 5 to 6 million tickets. Obviously, the only other bid standing in the way, Morocco. Probably not going to happen, and shoulder revenues, fan fests, hotels, concessions, big factors as to why cities are heavily motivated to host some or part of the World Cup. And then the North American 2026 bid up in the air for Los Angeles' inclusion. Statements regarding the city's plan to participate, we don't know, we may not know. The 2028 Olympics, really important. Rose Bowl in Pasadena expected to be included in LA's bid. New NFL stadium being built. Mexico, U.S., Canada, all have to be shaken out. Bottom line is the U.S. stands to have some pretty significant action on mega events coming to the U.S. in the 2020s. 2030, the Winter Olympics may be a bid. Salt Lake City, Denver, Reno, Tahoe. 2026 games look like Sapporo, Stockholm, Calgary, or Sion, Switzerland. The bottom line is these events are big, they're highly contested, and obviously very important. NBA All-Star Game coming to a community near yours, Los Angeles. NHL All-Star Game significant, the NBA game big as well. NBA.com has tickets for the Media Day, $10, LA Convention Center, and charity, big deal. National Association of Black Journalists, Professional Basketball Writers Association. Team LeBron plays Team Stephen Curry in the game. One winner donates $350,000 to charity. Loser $150,000. Bottom line is everybody wins. It's an interesting format. The NHL's tried it. Football's tried it. We'll see how they continue to tinker as far as the NBA is concerned. Baseball, the camp for unsigned free agents, the IMG Academy, the first MLB PA run, spring training camp since '95. And Bradenton, Florida, tentatively run through March 4. Several scouts, baseball analysts, coaches voiced concerns and mixed thoughts about the camp. Ron Darling said, "I'd be really afraid if I was a top free echelon free agent of getting hurt. But the IMG camp, no more or less dangerous than the Grapefruit or Cactus League, and it certainly attracts attention." Final issue is the Pirates. They're looking for other upgrades. They want $4.5 million for their work. They're only getting $2.6. They've spent $10 million. They want more. Double-check the contract, and if the Pirates as a tenant went above and beyond the agreed-upon upgrades, then that tenant will be on the captain hook. How about the Pirates? Finally, golf. Driving golf forward, an opportunity to play a direct role in the future of golf. And they're talking about reducing nutrients, chemicals, water, energy by 25% by 2025. Laudable goal. The tour wraps up its West Coast swing at Riviera, goes to the Florida Classic, the Honda Classic, first stop on the Florida swing, and they've been an industry innovator as well. We'll focus on them a lot next week, and obviously the beginning of the Florida swing. Well, that's it for Beyond the Scoreboard this week. We'd like to thank Dan Martin and Tanner Simpkins for putting it together. I'd like to thank Rene Fassel for his point of view, and we'd obviously like to thank you for listening and joining us again next week when we go Beyond the Scoreboard.